On a cold, quiet morning in June 1954, Christchurch, New Zealand. The city lived quietly, unaware that two teenage girls were about to change its history forever. Pauline Parker, 16, and Juliet Hume, 15, walked with Pauline's mother, Honora Reaper, through Victoria Park. They seemed calm, but hidden in Pauline's bag was a weapon, a brick wrapped in a stocking. What unfolded next was a crime so brutal and shocking that it gripped the nation and stunned the world. Their weapon? A brick wrapped in a stocking. Their motive? A desperate obsession to stay together, no matter the cost. This was not a spur-of-the-moment act. It was deliberate, planned, cold. What drove two intelligent, creative young girls to commit such a horrific act? Let's take a closer look at the story behind one of New Zealand's most infamous cases. Pauline and Juliet didn't just commit murder, they meticulously planned it. This wasn't an impulsive act, but a calculated, cold-blooded attack. They had created a fantasy world where their rules reigned supreme, and Honora had no place in it. The Parker-Hulme murder case became one of New Zealand's most infamous crimes, raising questions about friendship, obsession, and the thin line between reality and delusion. Pauline and Juliet met in 1952 at Christchurch Girls' High School. Pauline was a sharp and determined girl, but her life had been shaped by hardship. She suffered from osteomyelitis, a painful bone infection that left her with a limp. Her family was working class. Her father managed a fish shop, and her mother, Honora, was a homemaker. At first glance, they seemed like opposites. Pauline was the daughter of working-class parents. Her father, Herbert Reaper, managed a fish shop, while her mother, Honora, was a homemaker. Pauline's life was far from easy. She suffered from chronic osteomyelitis, a painful bone condition that left her with a limp. Her illness made her feel isolated and bitter. Juliet, on the other hand, came from a world of privilege. Her father, Dr. Henry Hume, was a brilliant physicist and the rector of the University of Canterbury. Juliet had an air of confidence and sophistication, but her life wasn't perfect either. As a child, she battled tuberculosis, spending long periods away from her family in sanatoriums. These experiences shaped her independent and imaginative nature. When Pauline and Juliet met, their connection was immediate. They bonded over shared interests in literature, opera, and fantasy. Together, they created elaborate stories set in an imaginary world they called the Fourth World. It wasn't just a hobby, it was their escape from reality. They crafted heroes, villains, and even their own set of religious beliefs. In this world, they were powerful, untouchable, gods in their own right. Pauline and Juliet's relationship grew stronger by the day. Pauline idolized Juliet, often describing her as perfect. They spent countless hours together, lost in their shared fantasies. Their intense bond began to concern those around them, including Pauline's parents and Juliet's family. Some speculated that their relationship might have been romantic, though the girls denied this. When Juliet's parents announced their divorce in 1954, the news shattered their world. Juliet was to leave New Zealand and move to South Africa with her father. For the girls, this separation was unthinkable. They became desperate, determined to stay together at any cost. In their eyes, Honora Reaper became the obstacle standing in their way. Pauline, especially, began harboring dark thoughts about her mother, blaming her for everything. In her diary, Pauline's entries became more sinister. She wrote about her hatred for her mother and her desire to be rid of her. The two girls devised a chilling plan to kill Honora, believing it was the only way to secure their future together. On June 22, 1954, Pauline and Juliet invited Honora to Victoria Park for a walk. It seemed like a pleasant outing, But the girls had packed a weapon, a brick wrapped in a stocking. They led Honora to a secluded path, pretending to enjoy the scenery. As they walked, Pauline dropped a pink stone to distract her mother. When Honora bent down to pick it up, the girls struck. First, Pauline attacked with the brick. Then Juliet joined in. The assault was brutal and relentless, leaving Honora with over 40 injuries. The attack was so violent that it shocked even seasoned investigators. After the murder, the girls ran to a nearby tea kiosk, claiming that Honora had fallen and hit her head. However, their story quickly fell apart. Their blood-soaked clothing and the crime scene painted a very different picture. The police investigation was swift. They found the murder weapon, and more importantly, Pauline's diary. The entries revealed the detailed planning behind the crime. In chilling detail, Pauline had written about their hatred for Honora and their intent to kill her. One entry read, "The thought of killing her is too thrilling." When questioned, the girls showed little remorse. Pauline reportedly said, "We've been found out," with a calm demeanor. Their lack of emotion stunned the authorities and the public. The trial began in August 1954 and quickly became a media sensation. People were fascinated and horrified by the case. How could two intelligent, seemingly normal teenage girls commit such a heinous act? Psychiatrists testified that the girls shared a rare psychological condition called folie à deux, or shared madness. This condition occurs when two people feed into each other's delusions, creating a dangerous and distorted reality. The defense argued that the girls were mentally unwell and deeply delusional. However, the jury saw things differently. They found Pauline and Juliet guilty of murder. Due to their age, they were spared the death penalty and instead sentenced to indefinite imprisonment. Pauline and Juliet served just over 5 years in prison. In 1959, they were released under strict conditions. They were to be given new identities and were forbidden from ever meeting again. Pauline took on the name Hilary Nathan and moved to England. She lived a quiet, reclusive life, dedicating herself to religion. Over the years, she expressed deep remorse for her actions. In interviews, she described her crime as a terrible mistake and appeared to seek redemption through her faith. Juliet, now Anne Perry, took a different path. She became a successful crime novelist, writing books that often explored themes of guilt, redemption, and morality. Her dark past remained a secret until the 1990s, when a journalist uncovered her true identity. The revelation reignited public interest in the case, with many questioning how someone who had committed such a crime could go on to lead a seemingly normal life. The Parker-Hulme murder case left an indelible mark on New Zealand's history. It wasn't just the brutality of the crime that shocked the nation, but also the psychological complexities behind it. How could two young girls, so full of promise and intelligence, descend into such darkness? The case has been the subject of numerous books, documentaries, and films, including Peter Jackson's 1994 movie, Heavenly Creatures. The film offered a dramatized version of the events, exploring the intense bond between Pauline and Juliet and the fantasy world that consumed them. Today, the case serves as a chilling reminder of the dangers of unchecked obsession and the fragility of the human mind. It forces us to grapple with uncomfortable questions about morality, responsibility, and the factors that drive people to commit unthinkable acts. The Parker-Hulme murder case is more than just a story about a horrific crime. It's a psychological study of two young girls whose friendship spiraled into obsession and violence. Decades later, the case continues to fascinate and disturb, a haunting tale of brilliance and madness. As we reflect on this infamous crime, we are reminded of the complexity of human relationships and the thin line that separates fantasy from reality. It's a story that refuses to be forgotten, leaving behind lessons that resonate even today. In the end, Pauline Parker and Juliet Hume were two young girls who dreamed big but lost their way. Their story is both a tragedy and a warning. It shows how powerful the human mind can be, for better or worse. Even now, as Christchurch carries on with life, the memory of their crime remains a dark chapter in its history.